Hey guys, welcome to a no sound video. Now, we are going to talk about the new card rulings that came in. So it may confuse you a little bit because it just came out this morning. If you're new to the game, I'm going to explain all this to you. If you're new to Duel Links, I'm going to explain this. If you've never played the TCG, I'm going to explain all this to you. So just pay attention and get ready for the tilt to explain this all to you. At least in my opinion. Alright? We're going to need some testing to be sure, but I'm pretty sure on a lot of these things. Alright, let's go over the first one. Monster effects that are triggered when the monster leaves the field. Before, monster effects with the text when or if this card leaves the field can activate when said monster is sent from the field to the extra deck. After, monster effects with the text if this card leaves the field will not activate when it's sent from the field to the extra deck. The main card in Duel Links that this is going to have the most impact on is Samurai Destroyer. So the way Samurai Destroyer works, as a Christian player, I know this very well, is when it's left by the field by a card effect. So normally, if they Drowning Mirror Force or they use Spiritual Beast Pedalfin, to return it back to the extra deck, it would normally, Samurai Destroyer, be able to special summon a machine type monster from your graveyard. Now it won't. What other monsters would this impact? Well, it specifically says Moki Moki King, Samurai Destroyer, and Goyo Emperor. However, there is another monster that this will impact. If we ever get Absolute Zero and it goes back to the deck, then it will not get its effect either. Absolute Zero is a fusion monster that when it leaves the field can destroy all monsters your opponent controls, but we do not have that yet, so don't worry about that. So that is a big one. Alright, if you're a Christian player, if you use Samurai Destroyer for a lot, then you're going to want to look into that. Now this is the biggie. Alright, and I know a lot of people could get confused here. Even veterans may get confused, but I think I got a grasp on what they're saying. Before, with some exceptions, cards will be able to activate their trigger effects as long as their activation condition was met, even if they were sent to a different location that is not openly displayed. So if you don't know what a trigger effect is, there's four main types of effects. Quick effects, continuous effects, trigger effects, and ignition effects. Trigger effects are effects that activate immediately on summon. So like Squire. Squire's a trigger effect. Spirit Master's a trigger effect. Black Rose, Quarion. Those are all trigger effects. Synchro Summon or Normal Summon. Whenever they activate, those are them. Trigger effects can also activate when they are sent to the grave. So, like, a Thunder Dragon Dark is a trigger effect in the graveyard, alright? Or, if you send something to the grave, I'm trying to think of another one. That would be Sanguine, right? When you send it with a Synchro Summon, that is a trigger effect. Now, let's go on even further. So some quick effects and ignition effects. Quick effects would be like your Dark Lord cards that you can activate in your opponent's turn. Those are quick effects. Or Citri or Rion. Some ignition effects would be effects that you would have to trigger normally when they are on the field. Judgment Dragon, Lumina, Raiden. Those are all ignition effects, okay? So, Solitaires. Shiranui Solitaire is another example. Raikiri, Hawkja, alright? So, now, let's go on further. If the location of this card was moved where it fulfilled its location, before its effect activates, that effect can no longer activates. If the card text says, when this card is summoned, this means it must remain in the monster zone until its effect activates. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. Well, since it's no longer in the monster zone, Ali Khan, Tribute Take, or for instance, Doom Puppet. No, I don't think that those cards will negate it. What it's saying, and let me explain how trigger effects work. When you normal summon Squire, that it immediately activates. You are mandatorily chain link 1. If your opponent chains a floodgate trap hole, I don't even know if that would count or not, but never mind. Let's say your opponent chains a treacherous. they are chain link too. So, yes, floodgate would count. So, flood or trench, you're chain link too. So what does that mean? That means your effect is already activated. What they mean for this, okay, is effects that are sent to the graveyard by a cost, you or your opponent would have a chance to respond. So, if you summon a rod, you activate it, it's already activated. Too late. Your opponent, even if they chain a fiendish chain and you send it, too late. Alright? So, if you summon rod, you activate its effect. I'm going to go over it again. They chain fiendish. You chain illusion magic to dodge it. Your effect is already activated. That's fine. This is not talking about resolution. If it was talking about resolution, it would say it needs to resolve on before that leaves the field. It's not saying that. It's saying it needs to be activated before it leaves the field. Okay? So these are things that you need to know. Now, I know people are going to think, well, what about Cyframe Lord Zeta? I'll just chain on summon. I'll start a chain when a monster is summoned. No. Because if you use, let's say Zeta, for instance, and you want to stop Black Rose, that will not work. Because Zeta, well, one, they can just summon in defense. That's an out. But let's just say for your opponent, let's say they brainlessly summon in attack mode. Just for an example here. Your Zeta will be chain link 1, they will be chain link 2. Zeta 1 will not resolve until their Black Rose activates. So that means that their monster will be on the field during activation. So this is something you need to know. Now, going on further, if this card says, when this card is sent to the grave, it must be in the graveyard to activate. So, before we even get into that, now, you might be saying, but why would they even come out with this? I'm going to explain. Cards that are sent to the graveyard as a cost. So let me give you an example. I use Lila in the end phase, right, to mill for 3 as a cost. That's a cost. I mill a wolf and I mill a Fellas, right? Your opponent will have a chance to respond to that, to move it to a different location before it can be activated. And you may say, well, how does that even work into things? What would that ever come up? Transformation prophecy. We have that in Duel Links. If they transformation your wolf that wants to activate in the grave, send it back to the deck. That will not activate because it's been sent to a different location. It doesn't matter. They're specifically talking on field in the grave, right? So, if they move that wolf back into the deck, you will not activate. Now, it won't be summoned anyway because the wolf is in the deck, but it will not activate. Or Fellas, it will not even make an activation. Now, let me give you an example, which will be more situational, which will be less situational. Let's say, well, actually, will have an impact on the game. Let's say you go dark, right? And Plague, and you synchro into Black Rose and Thunder Dragons, right? You send Dark to the grave. Now, your opponent on Synchro Summon wants to chain their trap. They want to chain their Transformation Prophecy, right? And they shuffle in Plague and Dark. Dark will not get its effect because Dark was not in the graveyard at the point of activation. Resolution doesn't matter here. Activation. Alright? It goes back into the deck. It does not get to activate its effect because it was sent to the Synchro Summon as a cost to maintain the Synchro Summon. You will not get Dark's effect. So this is something. Same with Roar. Same with Hawk. You need to know that. Alright? When you're playing Thunder Dragon, it's going to have an impact if they want to use a card like that. How much of an impact? I don't know. I don't know if Transformation Prophecy is going to be big. We're going to have to see how this mechanic impacts future boxes and what future things we get in the future that you may want to activate when sent. The same thing goes for Pinaki, right? You're playing Black Wings, Pinaki, the Waxing Moon. They put that in deck, well, that activates in the end phase anyway. It really doesn't come up unless they're not smart enough to shuffle it back in the deck. That would come up. Now, let's say we get a card in Duel Links like DD Crow, right? DD Crow is a card in Duel Links that you get via. We don't have it in Duel Links yet. Never mind. If we don't have it, we don't have it in Duel Links. But if we ever get it, it's a hand trap that allows you to banish one monster from either player's grave. It's a quick effect on either turn. Any card from the grave. Doesn't have to be a monster. But let's say you use DD Crow to banish their, trying to think. Oh, yeah, Dark. Then Dark will not get its effect because they'll have that brief chance to respond. Right when you Black Rose, they activate Black Rose. So they will not get their Dark because it was moved to a different location. Now, going on further, if the card text says when this card is sent to the graveyard, it must be in the grave to activate. Now, alright, again, I say this. When this card is sent to the graveyard. Now, let's take this, right? Sangan. They want to kill, they want to Sangan. This is kind of what I was getting with Dark. They synchro summon Sangan, you banish it. Before Sangan has a chance to activate, boom, it's gone. They lose your Sangan, right? Yubel, it activates instantaneously. I think that with Yubel, now this is the complicated one. If you send it to the grave, well, it won't activate it anyway. It needs to be destroyed. Well, actually, no. If you send it to the grave and you banish Yubel, I think with Yubel, if you banish it, it will not activate any of its forms. That's what I think. If you can interrupt Yubel, you'll have a chance, and then they'll miss it. So, I'll have to look into that, but I'm pretty sure on that with Yubel. Alright? Also, if the card text that when it's destroyed, it must be in the graveyard or banished. Now, when it's destroyed, does not have graveyard text in it. Alright? So, if they destroy it, it can't go back into the deck. It must be in the grave or it must be in the banished. So, if they destroy Sangan and somehow it goes back to the deck before there's a chance to activate, you will not be able to use the Sangan. Now, if they destroy your Sangan, I think it triggers immediately. I don't think you'll have a chance. Well, first of all, you destroy it in battle. That won't apply. Unless you destroy it with Aaron and it goes back into the deck. But in that case, it doesn't matter anyway. But if you destroy it, it'll be damage step. And then I don't think you have a chance to even respond to it. So, this could come into effect with something like Parshath. So well, no, it wouldn't even matter. Parshath wouldn't even come into effect here. Never mind. Alright, so example 1. They're giving you a few examples here. Alright, so this is something else. This has nothing to do, well, it has things to do with it, but it goes into a different example than what I was telling you. If a flip effect is flipped up at chain link 2 or higher, and Spellbook of Fate is activated the same chain link to flip the flip down, is face down, the flip effect will not activate. Alright, so here, let me explain what they're talking about. Let's say that for some reason, and this probably never is going to come up, you activate, well, you chain link 2 or higher to flip a face-up monster. That's really never going to come up. But if your opponent flips it up, chain link 2, right, with some crazy effect, and that would generally have to go off as a cost, alright? It would have to be flipped up as a cost. And then you activate Fate in that same chain link to flip it down. It won't get its effect because your flip-a monster is no longer on the field before it can activate. So let me give you an example. Let's say, for some reason, chain link 2 or higher, your flip-flop rock is flipped up, right? It will not activate until a new chain is available to give it. So, if your spellbook of fate is chain link 1, it flips it down, and then it's no longer on the field, so it won't attempt to activate a new chain. That's what they're saying. Okay, so that, it's rarely ever going to come up, but you're going to want to know it anyway. Now, this one's more apparent. If a flip effect monster defense position is attacked by Erin the Lightsworn Monk, so if you don't know what she does, she attacks the defense monster, flips it up, then shuffles it back to the main or into the extra deck. Then return to the deck with the effect of Erin, its effect will not activate. So, this is more apparent, alright? This might make Erin even better than it is. So let's say you have a flip monster like Raikou, right? In the mirror match of Lightsworn, you summon Erin, you attack their Raikou. Their Raikou will not activate because it's spun, no new chain link will be activated. That is very good to deal with flip effect monsters. So, flip-flop frog. It's actually, Erin could become a really good way to out something like Subterra Umastrix, right? Because if you attack into Umastrix, their monster gets flipped up, but then it goes back, spuns back into the deck, and then their Umastrix will not activate. Now, another good application that you need to know is that their Nemesis Warrior will still trigger. Because, I believe, because that's a different effect altogether. The minute it's flipped, Nemesis Warrior is still in the grave, so it will still be able to summon. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Now, 3. If the effect of Black Rose Dragon that destroys and banishes all cards on the field is activated, and you chain Graceful Revival to special summon Cybertine Angel, its effect will not be activated because it will not be on the field when it resolves. Now, never mind that situation because you're not going to recognize it off the bat. Let's say I have Elemental Hero Stratos, right, in the graveyard. This is the big one. And I use Black Rose Dragon, and you have a set Powerful Rebirth. I activate Powerful Rebirth. I summon back the Stratos. And then you wipe the field. You will not get Stratos' effect because Stratos must resolve on the field. It cannot longer resolve in the grave. It wants to be activated on the field. So, you Black Rose, you chain your Powerful Rebirth, you summon your Stratos, no effect. So, you're going to want to make sure that if you're going to play your Powerful Rebirth to get your Stratos, you do that before they can Synchro Summon to Black Rose. Because once they do that and activate it, it's a mandatory Link 1. It's too late. You will not get your Stratos effect. You are too late. Alright? For something like Thunder Dragon Dark, if you're going to chain like 100 Thunders to summon Dark, that's different because Dark activates in the graveyard. That's different. Alright? So, that's something you need to know. But for its situation, if you ever play Graceful Revival and Cyber Angels, well, know that. Alright? Cards and conditions that prevent you from special summoning into the end of the turn. Now, this is another big one. Alright? The big one here is before you're unable to special summon with other card effects, the special summon was negated. Special summons restrictions were based on the number of time you special summon rather than the number of time you special summon it to special summon negated. Now, this is huge. If they use Champion's Vigilance, or Solemn Scolding, on your Shiranui Squire Saga or any Shiranui Synchros, you will be able to resummon them from your extra deck in the same turn. Or unless you have another copy in your Mastery grave, because it will not count as Squire Saga being summoned. So it's kind of like, think of it this way. You have cards like Lunalight, right? You have the Lunalight spell, Lunalight Fusion, right? It says you can only activate it once per turn. But if they negate the activation, you can use it again. So if they negate it with Shien, you can still use another one, right? Or your Vendred spell. So you have Origin, Evolution. You activate those cards. They say you can only activate one per turn. But if they negate it, you can use it again. That's what they're doing here. So, let me give you a situation. Let's say you have... How should I put this? let's say you have a level 3 and already a Shiranui on the field. Let's say you have Artifact Vajra with your Shiranui Spectral Sword. You Synchro Summon the Squire Saga. In Blue Eyes or Dark Magician, they use Vigilance. Then you can normal summon your Squire, go in the Shade, summon Squire Saga again, because you were able to do that because the summon didn't count. It was like Squire Saga was never summoned. Now, the second part of this, which gets really important, is it does not count towards special summon restrictions. So if they use something like, what's that field spell? Summon Breaker, right? And they use Summon Breaker. If they negate your special summon in any way, right? Something that negates your special summon. If we ever get Solemn Warning, this will come up a lot more. Then you could summon again. Then that will not count toward your 3 special summons. So, if they negate your summon, then it will do that. That does not include Floodgate. Floodgate does not negate your summon. Your summon still counts. But if they were to use like a Champion's Vigilance, that would not count toward your 3 summons in that condition. Alright? Or if they Floodgate your Squire Saga, it still counts as being summoned. So, be aware of that. 4. Continuous traps that are treated as monsters when activated. Before, when a continuous trap is treated as a monster is activated, spell trap card zone was originally placed cannot be used until that continuous trap leaves the field. Embodiment of Apophis, plus whatever that trap is, I can't think of it. The continuous trap that is 2500 defense, and when another continuous trap is activated, pops a card in the field. That one. Now, this might make Subterra. This is the thing that may make Subterra much better after these changes. Why? Because if you're playing it with the trap version, if you run that build that summons a trap, and then you contribute your Nemesis Warrior to summon, then that could make Subterra better. Because now you could set more back row in place of all that, and you don't have to worry about it clogging up your back row meantime. So you'll have room to set more back row. So that may come into effect there, or unless you want to play like Odeon Cancer Stall. So in the zone that you would summon that continuous trap, it would still work. So let's say you use Embodiment of Apophis, right? You special summon it, right? Or Swamp Mirror, or whatever the other trap I'm thinking of is. Then you could still set back row where that trap was originally set. So that could be something later on where you want to fill up your monster zones, your spell and trap card zones after you activate those cards. You could reset more back row in those places. So more important in Subterra and Odeon Cancer Stall, whoever wants to make that specific build of it. Okay? So that's the main thing. Now the other things too is if you book a moon or Canadia it, we don't have book a moon in the game, but if you Canadia it, it goes back to that same spell trap zone. If you've already set back row in that spell and trap zone where embodiment was originally placed, then the embodiment will be sent to the graveyard. Alright? So, because they'll have nowhere to go. If it is, yeah. So that's what you need to know. Alright? If it is changed to face down defense, it will also go back in the spell and trap zone. So, that's what you need to be aware of. Alright? So, live stream tomorrow, 11 a.m. You know what it'd be. That's me explaining it all to you the best that I think I could possibly can. And I am 95% on all of these rulings. So, I would adopt this to now until we all get a conclusion. All of us streamers come together and all of us Yu-Gi-Oh players, top tier players and such, to come together to get a conclusion on this. But that's the way I think it's intending to work. So, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch. I will leave the link in the description below. I will also update and add a Discord link at the below. You're going to want to become a part of it. You're going to want to see my KC Cup climb. You're going to want to make sure you're followed on Twitch because that's where I am streaming it. So, Thank you for all of you this video. Took the time to stay to the end, or even had time to look at it. And thank you for all the new subscribers. You guys are awesome. You make the channel, I don't. And thank you for all the new follows on Twitch and members on Discord. Till then, Tilt Betray, signing out.